Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Giants released Tommy Cutlets. They still have Mr. Unlimited, but when will they start throwing darts? The Cleveland Browns named rookie Shedeur Sanders Quarterback 3, and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Cutdown day this year has been about the quarterback, some going out the door, and what it means for the quarterbacks already on some other rosters. Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants gets all of those angles. Tommy DeVito, a.k.a. Tommy Cutlets, did not make the New York Giants team, and all anyone wants to talk about out of Giants training camp is one Jackson Dart. When is he going to be on the field? When are we going to see him? So, Patricia, I will start there. How long before we see Jackson Dart this season?
I don't think we will see him until, full-time at any rate, until later in the year. I know the Giants ideally would like to not have him play at all. But that being said, I would not be surprised if the Giants set up a situation where, okay, they're going to have 3 quarterbacks active on game day. And depending on the situation, Jackson Dart may get some snaps. Now, the situation early on probably will be a case of if there is a blowout and mop-up is necessary, get him on the field, let him get some snaps, let him see the speed of the regular season, see some defenses, the game plan, and so on and so forth. I think that could potentially be a scenario for him to where he's not going to necessarily be the emergency quarterback. Now, as the year goes on, if he continues to develop the way he has, then I could see a scenario where, if heaven forbid, Russell Wilson can't go. Now, maybe they say, okay, you know what, depending on the opponent or what they are anticipating, maybe they put Jackson Dart in there. But I do think, it's going to be a while before we see him full-time as a starter.
So I want to try and frame the question a different way, because I'm wondering about the pressure that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are feeling in this organization, because it feels like they spent this offseason going, we want to try and win right now. So how do you think the pressure to win will affect this team, which I guess is another way of saying, how fast is the hook going to be on someone like Russell Wilson if they're not winning? Will they be desperate enough to make the shift? Or is this all, do you think, going to be about the development of Dart?
No, I think it's going to be about the development. I mean, the last thing you want to do is rush the guy out there before he's ready. That's what they did with Daniel Jones back in 2019, and we all know how that worked out.
Yes, we do.
So, yes, there is pressure for them to have a better roster, to win more games. There's no question about it. But I think at the end of the day, Giants ownership, John Mara, Steve Tisch, I think what they want to see is the team better in week 18 than it was in week 1?
As I was looking at the schedule, Patricia, there's no real intuitive place if you were going to try and put hey, it would be great to have the bye week and then an easier team or something like that. Like, I know sometimes we oversimplify these things when we look at it that way, but I was trying to find a gap on their roster. They've got a tough schedule. There's not a lot of stretches where you go, okay, you can ease him in here. It seems like this may have to be a situation where they're forced to play Jackson Dart.
It's all going to depend on how the season goes. I mean, if we get to, say, week 12, week 13, and they're still in the playoff hunt, and Russell Wilson is healthy and playing well, we won't see him.
Right.
It all depends. That's, I know ideally they don't want Jackson Dart to see the field this year unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, do they want to maybe see if they can get him a snap here and there just to kind of keep him sharp? Because look, people talk about mental reps, and we all know that mental reps aren't the same thing as the real McCoy. So I do think, it's going to depend on how the season flows. If they are in the playoff hunt, they're going to stick with Russell Wilson. If they are not, then you can say, okay, you know what? Let's maybe consider flipping the switch, but only if Jackson Dart is ready. That is the key thing. I think everybody wants to put Jackson Dart out there, but nobody wants to talk about, okay, is the kid ready to go out there? And you got to remember, as good as he looked in the preseason, he faced vanilla defenses. And there were, most of his throws were good and his decisions were right and everything like that. But it's a whole different ballgame when you get to the regular season and teams game plan against you.
Quickly here, just to talk about the other big name rookie, Abdul Carter, who looked absolutely phenomenal in some limited reps in the preseason. How good can he be right away?
Oh, I think he could hit the ground running. I mean, we have not necessarily seen in the preseason the different ways that I think they're going to deploy him. But this young man, quick first step. He's got a really good motor. Now, I don't think he had any sacks in the preseason, which I know for him was a little disappointing because he was looking to get his first sack. But given the way they're going to deploy him and that whole pass rush in general, there's going to be opportunities for him to wreak havoc in the backfield and get after quarterbacks. And that's what they brought him in for. And, let's not discount his ability to play against the run, which is also going to be a big factor in what he contributes to that defense. Because, look, if you don't stop the run, you're not going to get a chance to rush the passer. And, that's something that Carter has taken, that he's been working on to make sure that he is up to snuff when it comes to stopping the run.
You can stay up to date all year on the New York Giants by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Giants on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. We're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Browns named Dylan Gabriel QB2, which means Shedeur Sanders is the third stringer. Before we get to that, the Buccaneers have positive injury updates. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Perhaps you believe the Green Bay Packers are going to win this Super Bowl, or maybe you have some division winner dark horses you'd like to parlay. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Buccaneers got good news regarding stars Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs. Both Pro Bowlers passed their recent physicals, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. That means they can avoid the PUP list. Godwin's coming off an ankle injury, while Wirfs is coming off knee surgery. The Saints named Spencer Rattler their starting quarterback.
Welcome to the car. I'll tell you everything you need to know about what was one of the most busy days when it comes to the New Orleans Saints. They named a starting quarterback. They cut down to their 53-man roster. They traded for a player. It was a wild day. So the first thing you need to know, of course, Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback for week 1 of the NFL regular season. Kellen Moore announcing that earlier today at his surprise press conference on Tuesday. So that is done. The next thing that you're going to be looking at there is just how the Saints kind of mold and fit the offense to them, but we'll dive into that later on this week after we see a couple of practices tomorrow and Thursday. As for the 53-man roster, not a lot of surprise moves made. I think some folks have been surprised a little bit about the Clyde Edwards-Helaire move, but I feel like that's a little bit about like roster accounting and maneuverability more than anything. That's a veteran that you can get back to the practice squad potentially, but we'll see what happens there. Isaiah Foskey was let go. Jake Haener was waived. The Saints moved off only one of their drafted rookies. That was 7th rounder Fadil Diggs, not the guy that I expected, but we'll see what happens with the practice squad and how they continue to build it up. But 53 guys on the roster is set, including a new man, offensive tackle Asim Richards, who was traded for in a pick swap all the way in 2028, a 6th-round pick for a 7th-round pick. The Saints get the 7th, as well as Asim Richards. That gives them some tackle depth where they had no healthy tackle depth. They lost Landon Young for the season, and Barry Wesley is going on injured reserve, designated to return. So this gives them some quick depth, not even quick. I mean, he's a talented player. Cowboys fans hated losing him. A couple of our guys over at Locked On Cowboys talked a little bit about it as well, saying that he was a really good player, a good backup. So Saints get some tackle depth there. Now, remember, the initial 53 is never the same as the week 1 53, and that's going to see some changes with waivers clearing around 11 a.m. Eastern, I believe, on Wednesday. So we'll see if the Saints end up bringing in any additional talent. But as of right now, the 53 is set. The starting quarterback is named. A trade has been made, and there's only going to be so much more. And we'll see you tomorrow when the Saints are back at practice. Walk to the car and I'll tell you all about it.
The Falcons traded for tackle Mike Jarrell to try and replace the injured Caleb McGarry.
The Falcons are trading for a new right tackle, but will he fill the shoes of injured Caleb McGarry? I'm Aaron Freeman with Locked On Falcons. NFL Network is reporting the Falcons are sending a conditional 7th round pick in 2027 to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for offensive tackle Mike Jarrell. Jarrell originally was a 6th-round pick for the Seahawks last year, and the Falcons are somewhat familiar with him, given that he made his NFL debut last year in their Week 7 loss to Seattle. Jarrell gave up 4 pressures in that game, but the Falcons are hoping that the arrow is pointing up for the 26-year-old right tackle. The Falcons are in desperate need for more help at offensive tackle, given injuries to starting right tackle Caleb McGarry and swing tackle Storm Norton. McGarry is slated to miss an undetermined but significant time due to a leg/knee injury, and Norton is going to be out for at least the first month of the season due to an ankle injury. Jarrell will give the team a plan B option at right tackle, with current backup guard Elijah Wilkinson being their plan A. Wilkinson, despite playing mostly guard for the Falcons, has started 45 games across his 8-year NFL career, including 20 of them at right tackle. For more updates on the Falcons' latest roster moves, make sure you follow Locked On Falcons, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Lions surprisingly cut offensive lineman Dan Skipper.
So it's possible that is what this is, and that Dan Skipper is just being let go for the day, and then once they maneuver the roster around, he will stay. That's a possibility. The other possibility is that the Lions are going to go with 2 backup tackles in Giovanni Manu, who you know is Brad Holmes' pet project, and possibly Jamarco Jones, the big fella who played in 2 of the preseason games this year, but they love his size, his versatility, and maybe Jones beat out Skipper.
The Cleveland Browns have remade their QB room. Locked On Browns host Spencer German explains what this means for rookies Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel.
I initially thought this was the path of how things would play out. I thought that Kenny Pickett would end up the odd man out. I thought he should be the odd man out pretty much from the beginning of this competition, despite what was being reported about the fact that the team really liked Kenny Pickett and thought he had a legitimate shot at winning the starting job. That obviously got derailed by the hamstring injury. And in recent weeks, I had pivoted to believing, okay, they're going to keep all 4 quarterbacks. And that was real. That was real. They were okay keeping all 4 quarterbacks. And I think you got those sentiments from Andrew Berry on the broadcast over the weekend, where he told Chris Rose, like, it's not even a decision for us. It's easy. We feel good about it, whatever. Like, they were ready to keep 4 quarterbacks. I wholeheartedly believe that in my heart of hearts, based on what I know, based on the things that I've heard. And so because of that, I think you're looking at a situation that was things change, and they change quickly in this league. And what changed was you had a team that was desperate enough to pull the trigger, to give the Browns what they were asking for, to get a backup quarterback. And that was the scenario that we talked about all offseason, potentially being the way that you whittle down this quarterback depth chart, right? It was this idea that you get to training camp, there's always injuries, there's always guys that get hurt, and then maybe a team gets desperate enough that they're like, you know what? We need that guy. Let's go make a trade. And that's what happened with the Raiders, with Aiden O'Connell suffering the wrist injury. That essentially cleared the path for them to need a backup quarterback. That became a big priority for them. And here they were pulling the trigger, sending a 5th-round pick back to Andrew Berry to get Kenny Pickett out there. Aiden O'Connell's going to miss about 6 to 8 weeks, so this makes a lot of sense for them. They can get somebody in quickly, acclimate them, all those different things. And so after trading a 5th-round pick plus DTR and the initial deal to the Eagles to get Kenny Pickett, this essentially makes the deal a wash for the Browns, who now have 10 picks in 2026. That falls in line with what we've heard Jimmy Haslam say about how this team was focused on accumulating draft picks and how they were going to continue to try to do that. So like I in terms of like the haul, in terms of this kind of coming to fruition, I do think it's a win for the Browns. It's a win for Andrew Berry. I get it. You're going to look back and say, well, they gave up more than what they got back in return for Kenny Pickett. And that's fair. But also DTR was just released by the Eagles. So it's not like the Eagles got some massive asset out of Kenny Pickett that now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you overpay. I mean, he's now free to sign basically anywhere. Like if the Browns really wanted to add him back, they could. Maybe they'll sign him to the practice squad for all we know. Who knows? But you know, it's an interesting situation. Yes, I get it. It's unique in that way. But to get a 5th round pick back and basically just replenish the pick that you gave up. You essentially only traded DTR for Kenny Pickett in the end. Like, it was basically just like a quarterback swap, if you will. And so from that standpoint, like, it's a win. And I do think, again, I want to reiterate, like, that they were planning on keeping 4 quarterbacks. That was going to be the direction they were going. And then circumstances changed, as they tend to do in the NFL, and the Raiders are willing to pay up what Andrew Berry was looking for. I think the fact that the trade ends as a wash is awesome. And I also think it speaks to the fact that, aside from the Quinshon Judkins unexpectedly winding up in a legal situation that he was in, and that's still sort of playing out right now, where he's not signed, not at camp, all those different things. This has been arguably Andrew Berry's best offseason since he's been with the Browns. Now, that does take some projecting here by what we think these rookies are going to do and what we think these rookies are going to be. But I think I can say this, I think right now, based on what we've seen at training camp and throughout the preseason, I feel really good about Carson Schlesinger and Mason Graham basically being like 2 defensive studs for this team. And those are your first 2 picks. And if they short up 2 spots there, if he nailed those 2 picks, like, you already feel pretty good about that situation in general. Quinshon's not here, and again, that's the biggest blemish to his class that he signed. But without, like, I've been harping on the fact for months that I thought Quinshon was ready to be that lead horse back to sort of assume that role, his play style, running like Kareem Hunt, all those things I brought up over this past year. Make me believe that when he is out there, he has a chance to be great, especially in this system and in this offense. So I feel good about the prospects of him eventually being good. It's just going to take it's going to take longer than anybody expected to get him in the building and ready to compete and play and contribute to this team. And then beyond that, like, I think you have some other pieces in this draft class that you answered. Harold Fannin Jr. seems like he's going to make a major impact. He's going to be very involved in this offense. If one of the quarterbacks at least pans out, you feel like you maybe find a guy that's at least a long-term backup for you, if not your franchise quarterback. I hope it's the latter. And then, like, this would be a knockout of the park draft class just in general.
Stay up to date all year on the Browns by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Browns on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Travis Kelce gave Taylor Swift a ring. Now he seeks another one of his own. It's the 4th one, like his ring finger. Kansas City Chiefs All-Pro tight end Travis Kelce recently got engaged to international pop star Taylor Swift. I don't know if you heard this. So we thought we'd ask some questions. We're a journalistic outfit out here about the people involved on how they feel about this. Travis, how did you and Taylor know this was the right decision for you?
You see the determination, you see the focus, you see the want to get to a position that we're in. And man, it's gratifying for sure. But
okay. Jason, I want to get your perspective on this as Travis Kelce's brother. What are your thoughts on getting engaged, and how do you expect to prepare for what I assume is going to be the best man speech?
Yeah, I'm just happy for him. Congratulations. It's hard to get here. It's I hadn't quite let the emotion get to me yet. I'm sure we'll have a more emotional interaction. Still frustrated at that point, but really, really happy for Trav.
Oh, that's nice. He's just going to cry so much giving that best man speech. How about this? Coach Reed, how do you think Travis made this happen? I mean, Taylor Swift's the biggest star in the world.
Not to my wish, but he did the dunk. So Tony, if you're out there, that was your pat on the back there.
And Travis, we have to talk about it, I guess. What do you think, now that you're with Taylor Swift, what do you think your exes think about all this?
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good enough?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, lots of quarterbacks have been released. Who's going to sign them? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.